Welcome back everyone, Ignat here. An awesome day for solar production. According to the local weather bureau, or at least the app on my phone, minimum temperatures to be is 8 degrees Celsius. It actually feels like it. And maximum 27 degrees Celsius. You see the panel right there? This one. This is the 50 watt panel. I've proven with my affordable power monitoring setup, that this actually puts out the rated power that's displayed spec sheet at the back of this panel. I've gotten me another one with good reason, and it'll make it clear moments from now. But if you've been a long time viewer of this channel, I'm sure you're aware of the fact that I've complained about the yellow discoloration, and I think I may know why that's the reason. Let me quickly take you down. These ones are not as badly affected as the 15 watt panel that I'll show you momentarily. But to quickly give context, and it will go perfectly in line with why I got another 50 watt panel. Now this panel is hooked up to the 20 amp charge controller. East and west is that side. So this ideally is aimed to capture the sun towards the west, and this 30 watt panel is hooked up to the 5 amp charge controller. It's ideally aimed to capture the sun in the morning. I'm trying to avoid the but then of course if you look at the angle of this panel, it's aimed more towards, but reasons aside, the original purpose and intent of having the panel set up in this way is to give the lead acid battery the best chance of reaching a full charge. These two panels, they're in parallel. They're hooked up to the lights for the storage area. But let me give you guys what you came for, and that's another 50 watt panel. This is now actually much later in the day. I had a few errands to run. So that's the gap, I believe, where moisture found its way into those PV cells. There are a few cracks, but keep in mind this panel is very old, and I'm not sure if the camera can pick up on this 15 watt panel. So this gap goes along. In some places it's closer to the glass. Ah, come on, piece of paper. There we go. So it's not really. Okay, so some points it's more, some points it's less, but I don't know if this is a design feature. While the panel heats up and cools down to prevent cracks from happening. This is just my theory. This is the 15 watt panel. I had this since 2014, 15, actually 14, give or take. This is part of an experiment. Now this doesn't form part of the storage light for the storage area. So let me take you to the 50 watt panel. 50 watt panel. So like I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know if it's a design feature or not, but I highly suspect that the moisture in the other panels, the one I just showed you, the 15 watt panel, it's the one that's affected more than the others. So this reddish color, it's a glue I tried to paste on to see if it will actually get the job done. I laid the panel in the sun because it gives off a funky smell, but then I noticed it didn't really get the job done, so I basically used like a Bostik glue, the type you use to build fish tanks. So I hope this will solve the problem long-term wise. For the record, disclaimer, I didn't purchase the panel like this. This is just the discoloration of my attempt to try and seal it up. You see some of the glue. Now, it's a quick summary. These specs are only true in the labs constantly. Of course, there were days I actually managed to get 50 watts out of the very first 50 watt panel I bought, and the current, let me see, short circuit current is 3.2. The highest I got on the old panel was around 3.213, 3.3, but I believe 3.2 was the peak, or 3.3. I just need to go check out the old videos regarding my solar setups on the channel to verify that. But for now, I can vouch for this panel. I can vouch for the short circuit current, because the panel where I got this panel from was from the same Chinese gentleman. So let me try and keep this video short. This is a 50 watt panel. Why did I get another 50 watt panel? Why didn't I go for something bigger? Well, I want to slowly make my way, or make slow upgrades towards my system. I'll replace that 50 watt panel, I'll replace it with a 30 watt panel that's hooked up to this 5 amp charge controller. Currently the amp power production, or the amp that's flowing in, is 0.6. Now sun, this is aimed towards the west, this panel. Sun is actually setting down. This is why the current flowing into the battery bank is actually this low. There's currently no load on the system. So imagine, if you will, a 50 watt panel hooked up to this, and a 50 watt panel hooked up to this. Of course, to put things into context, how the system is currently set up: 30 watt panels towards the east and 50 watt panel towards the west. The best 4 hours during the day, sunlight hours, that the panels can produce the max. I'm just going on the max. I know the panel produces more power during the day than just the 4 hours alone, but I want to keep my expectations sober. I want to work with predictable results, more or less. So this is how the system is currently set up. Then we look at 300 watts or 0.320 kilowatts. This is now basically DC current. What I want to do moving forward, the 30 watt panel towards the east, just replace it with a 50 watt panel. And to the west, of course, we still have that 50 watt panel. So in essence, we have around 80 watts extra power if we do the math. The float voltage for the deep cycle battery, this one right here, deep cycle, it's been good to me since 2019. The air curtains just serves the purpose to keep out most of the dust. When the wind blows during the dry season, or just whenever there hasn't been long periods of rain, dust tends to build up on the surface of this battery, and I want to minimize its entrance to those cells. I'll just put it back. Caps are actually, you can open, it's not a sealed lead as a battery. There you go. Normally top it off every few months or so, because I don't deep cycle those batteries too much. The lowest I've ever taken them was for 12.4 volts. That was the lowest. So to bring this video full circle, imagine, if you will, 50 watts towards the east, 50 watts to the west. These cables, I hope it can be picked up by the camera. Ah, snap, it can't. There we go. 2.5 millimeters squared. Now it's sufficient, one side of this cable is sufficient for over 3 amps. The most I've seen, the power that flowed into the system on this setup, or the 50 watt panel that's hooked up to this 20 amp charge controller, was 2.7, 2.8 amps. So assuming that the same amount of power will be produced from the sun coming from the morning side, or from the east side, 2.7 amps, that should be more than enough. Now there's another reason, actually two reasons why, actually, or few of the reasons I'm going this way. Let's say, for discussion's sake, and it is what the bulk charge on this is 14.5. The bulk charge on this, I've set it to 15 volts, even though there's a discrepancy of 0.2 volts. This voltmeter is more accurate than that one. So how I see it playing moving forward, let's say in the morning the rest voltage either 12.4 or 12.7. This charge controller will raise up the voltage to 14.5, and then this charge controller, the voltage now being set to 15 or 14.8 volts. Then we'll take the voltage from the 14.5 all the way up to 14.8. Why the voltage also needs to be this high? because this is not a stationary battery. I definitely cycle it to the lowest I've ever taken was 12.4. It's recommended, or what I've seen. Most solar enthusiasts, they take the voltage all the way down to 12 volts, and that's considered a 50% discharge or state of charge, bringing from 12.7 all the way down to 12 volts. That's considered 50%. I always intend, and I'm still intended to only use the top 20% of the deep cycle battery. And in a perfect world, this is how it will work. And I actually look forward to doing that. Of course, what I'm describing here is a perfect world scenario. We live in the real world. There's something called clouds, there's something called rainy days, etc., etc. So the 250, now that I have an extra 50 watt panel, there's two ways for me to use it. In a 12 volt setup, I can keep it as is. And then, of course, 50 watts from the east, the west, pure sine inverter. Either a 2000 watt, 2500 watt, or a 3000 watt pure sine inverter. Then everything will remain as it is. Of course, I'll come to the battery, the ideal battery setup shortly. So in a 24 volt setup, I take those two. Those are the only two panels of similar output, voltage output, current output, that I can actually make connect in series and hook it up either to this charge controller. Keep in mind both these charge controllers are 12 24 volts, 12 24 volts nominal. You can choose your options. So even in a scenario like this charge controller will still get the job done, but moving forward, get an MPPT charge controller. Let's say for discussion's sake, I go with a 24 volt setup. That means now those two panels I will have them aimed towards the west or to the east, and then whichever one of these charge controllers is freed up, then I'll just get a bigger panel. I'm talking about growing slowly, moving forward. Now for battery options, I know there are two types of golf cart batteries. You find the 8 volt version, and then you find the 6 volt version. So if I stick with the 12 volt setup, of course, lead acid is like option C to me, deep cycles. Because I know, especially with golf cart batteries, they are designed for, rigorous work. They can carry 4 people in the average medium-sized golf cart battery for kilometers the whole day, chasing a golf ball. It's designed for that. It can easily run at the average home, especially here in Namibia if you have a couple of them. But let me not get sidetracked. So it will either be, if I choose to remain with the 12 volt setup, it's either going to be 3 8 volt golf carts, or it's going to be let me start over. It's either, because with the golf cart batteries 8 16 24, they are more applicable for the 24 volt setup. But if I stick with the 12 volt setup, it will be 2 6 volt golf cart batteries in series. This is now the minimum setup I'm aiming towards, or it will either be sodium ion batteries, or it will be lithium iron phosphate batteries. So these are some of the things I'm playing around and considering moving my way forward. 24 volt setup simply means that if it's lead acid, 3 8 16 24, 3 8 volt golf cart batteries in series, or 24 volt sodium ion battery bank, or lithium iron phosphate. I'm actually leaning more towards a sodium ion battery, but that's a topic I'll hopefully discuss in the future. So with that extra 50 watt panel, which either of the two options I go with, I still win. There's actually one or two of the devices inside the home. I actually want them to be the first, except for the car audio, the USB charging stuff. For the old time, for the viewers watching this video right now, having watched me now for a while, moving back, know that I got my USB set up. It's running like it's supposed to. But if you're interested in a more in-depth view regarding this DC setup, train of thought, why I chose a lunchbox, it's actually a 7-point iron fuse, let me know in the comment section. I can definitely sort out that video for you. But the way moving forward, the 50 watt panel, the 250 watt panels, they definitely they hit the spot. So the 4G router, I know if I have to go by what the adapter, the AC to DC, that's adapter, basically what it does, steps the voltage from 230 to 220 in Namibia. down all the way down to 12 volts at 2 amps. So if you do the math, that's roughly 240 watts in a 24-hour period. Even with the two 50-watt panels in series, whether it be the 12 or 24 volt, I can still hook that up to the pure sine inverter, whether it be 12 or 24 volts pure sine inverter. I still win at the end of the day, but those are just some of the things I'm thinking moving forward. If you have, I thank you for watching this video till the end. See you guys in the next one.